Hello and welcome to the Curators Salon podcast. I'm your host, Geeta Joshi. And this morning I saw a post on Instagram where somebody said 50% gallery commission is wild. And I thought I have to wade in on this one. And yeah, that's right. If you're hearing it for the first time, gallery commission typically is about 50%. Sometimes it can be a bit more, sometimes it can be less, but it hovers around that sort of 50% mark. But I really wanted to put this into the context of ordinary retail. So let's say you were somebody that was making candles, again, a luxury item like artwork, not something you absolutely need, but this was your business. You were making candles and your production cost per unit you'd figured out was, let's go with $5, pounds, euros per unit, per candle. When you are selling this directly, if your price is £15 retail, that's how you're selling it on your website, then obviously you're making $10 per unit, and that's an okay margin. But it's really your responsibility to edge those prices up. And if you were wanting to go to sell wholesale to department stores, let's say, then the way this works is typically wholesale prices are approximately double production cost. So if your production cost was 5, then you would be selling it wholesale for 10 or 12 euros. And that store would then be selling it retail, typically $25 to $30. So literally in that, you can see that they are making way more than the $5 markup, $5 profit that you're making on your production cost. They're making $15 if they're selling it at 25. So if you were selling it directly at 25, then you're making $20 per candle, and that's really great place, right, to be. So you just need to increase the different ways that you're selling and accessing your audience. But every so often, of course, it is good to have like a wholesaler or a retailer stockist that is also selling your work because of that brand alignment. So the markup in retail is, the retailer is actually making way more profit than a gallery is over art, where they're actually taking 50%. But of course, the difference here is also that a retailer would be buying usually in volume. So even if you were selling them 10 candles and you've made, you're invoicing for $100, actually only like 50 of that is your profit. Meanwhile, they sell all 10 of those candles at 25 and they've made £250 or dollars. So this is one of those kind of things that, every artist kind of needs to think about. It's like, one, you need to raise your prices to a point that you are happy to actually, you're comfortable with the gallery taking that 50%, or you do this in a way that it actually complements your direct sales as well, which is the kind of optimal situation. Or, as some artists do, they just basically kind of sell just themselves, and then they'll periodically invest in fairs and things like this, or they'll invest in advertising to bring more people in directly to their world so that they can make those sales directly. But one of the really important parts of this is that it is the maker, whether it's the candles or the artist, they're the person that is responsible for those prices initially, right? Especially when you're entering those relationships. As you start working with galleries, you might see that there is appetite for your work, and you can incrementally be increasing those prices as well. But something else just to keep in mind here is that you usually don't want to have so much dependency on a gallery, because those relationships might not be forever. And, whether that gallery closes, and we hear a lot of stories at the moment around galleries closing, that that source of income can just dry up, right? And you're back to either finding new galleries, or hopefully, when the artists I work with usually work with more than one gallery, you've either got other galleries that are supplying your work, or you also have your own business where you're selling directly in place as well. And you don't want to leave that to be the thing that you figure out later on, right? You really want to be doing this right from as early as you can, and setting that price for your market, understanding the appetite for your work, understanding the kind of people that resonate with your work, that can comfortably afford it, and literally finding more of them. So this we call typically our ideal buyer, who our work is for. And this is something we've been covering quite a lot inside my 4-week Art Business Foundations program, because once you know what your messaging is, which is the statement and the ideas that are embodied in that work, then we can start looking at like, okay, who would be the sorts of people that would be interested in work that embodies these sorts of ideas, and where can we find more of them? When you know this kind of information from the beginning and you are actively out there putting your work out there on social media, you're building your mailing list, all of these things is actually going to make it much easier for you to find a gallery later on as well, if that is something you are thinking about, because you're able to just to go in with more robust conversation around both your work, but who it's for, and then the galleries that you're choosing or the ones that you're opening conversations with, you would also be able to assess that they do have the kind of audience who would be able to comfortably afford your work, for example. And I've said this before, but if you're new to my world, you might have missed it. But really, you want to set a price, if you are right at the beginning of your art journey, that you can move upwards from. So, one of the few rules in the industry is that prices typically move upwards, and that is what you want to do. So if you are just really new to entering the marketplace, then have a price that you are comfortable charging for your work, knowing that it is going to be moving upwards from there, rather than having prices so high just because you've seen somebody else that makes similar work. But what you might not be seeing is that they have, basically built an audience, right? They have got different sort of credibility around the exhibitions they've been featured in, or the press and media that they've had, and all these sorts of things that actually are all kind of occasions that artists can use to raise their prices. So, you're having a price that when you're entering the marketplace that you can move upwards from. And this is something that you also get to kind of think about every time you launch a new body of work or a new collection and so on as well. Just going back to my retail example, I've also come across a lot of artists whose galleries have decided to publish their prints. And this is where the gallery is selling the print for mid-hundreds, and they're responsible for the printing and the distribution and the selling and all of it. And then the artist is coming out with under $100. So you can see, again, the markup here is closer to that candle example where, the artist, has made those designs, but per sale, they're really not making as much as they would if they were selling one directly or they were selling originals. So again, this is something just to keep in mind. And again, really with this, what I want to say is that this is all about choices. These are all choices you can make. You might want to do that with some galleries, like let them handle the print production and have that, because you maybe, you see the benefit in that wider distribution, or people getting access to your work at those price points where your originals are significantly higher. So, again, it's going to be different for every artist, and it's really just about you making those choices that are most optimal for you and your goals. Something else I wanted to add was a lot of the news around galleries closing and that sort of thing, right? This year, in 2025, we've seen a number of galleries closing, and they've made the news, like the Art Newspaper and all the places are talking about it. But here's the other thing. There are people that are setting up as galleries and agents all the time as well. They just don't have the PR budgets to be making the news. And, unfortunately, bad news kind of takes up more, real estate in, that kind of news gets disseminated more. But there are certainly, every month I'm seeing like new galleries opening, new art ventures, people selling art, new platforms and things like that as well. So, if you are somebody that is taking too much notice of this, know that there is a flip side as well, where people are actually opening galleries and they are opening new platforms and things like that. And it's, again, a choice for you whether you want to participate on that. Personally, I think if you are in the early days, or even if you are, you've been building out an art career and you've been working with galleries, making sure that you have your own platform and your own ways of people buying work directly from you is really one of the best ways, because not all galleries work on exclusivity, which is another myth around the industry, that, once a gallery sells your art, they don't like you selling directly. Well, again, right, this is business, and it's about how savvy you are in this, that you get to choose, well, look, I am going to do it, or you can get first dibs on work, and in every situation you're going to be negotiating. There isn't one rule across the industry, just like there isn't one gallery model across the industry. There are galleries that only show up at art fairs. There are ones that only sell online. There are ones that are a hybrid of all these sorts of things. And a lot of times when people are thinking about galleries, they're literally thinking about a showroom or a retail space in a high traffic area, or in one of the major cities. But, you should know by now that they are all over the place. They operate in all sorts of different ways. There are the ones that kind of just take a pop-up space, or will actually have exhibitions in, I don't know, hotels and corporates and things like this. So again, like just figuring out like which is the most optimal for you, but also understanding that a lot of this is like stepping stones. It's thinking about where you are now and where you want to be going. So like what would be a good, easy and obvious next step for you, so that you can figure out like, okay, from there, that will be a good, I don't know, kind of exhibition that would perhaps like shift your peer group, for example, right? And that would actually, it's an opportunity for you to connect with other artists. And in itself, that can be something that kind of moves you forward as well. Inside my Art Business Foundations program, this is a 4-week program where we have 6 sessions. We're talking about the messaging and then spending quite a lot of time on who the ideal clients are. And because this program runs over 4 weeks, each week I've noticed that the artists who are on the program currently are coming back with like new insights as they mull over who their ideal clients are and the kind of messaging that would connect with those people and where they can find more of those people. So this is a small cohort program. We cover ideal clients, we cover the messaging, we cover marketing around email marketing and social media marketing, and then different ways to sell as well. So again, if you are somebody that thinks you absolutely need a gallery, well, then this would be eye-opening, because you can obviously sell in different ways. And then there are online platforms as well, which can be very good for artists to even just improve their digital online presence, because that anytime you go to buy something, if you come across something on the internet, right, and you think, oh, well, I'd really like that, and it doesn't have to be art, it can be a piece of clothing, or it can be a piece of jewelry or something like that, you are going to go and look them up and see what else they do and where they are. So you having that expanded digital presence is also really a part of your brand building. And one of the things we look at is websites, and also around the SEO, that findability, right, that search engine optimizing of your website, so that if somebody else has a similar name to yours, then at least you kind of start ranking higher up there on the search engines like Google and Bing and Yahoo and so on. But that findability and then backlinks to kind of have other people's platforms like pointing to yours and things like this, all about building trust with your ideal customers, but also helping you kind of rank higher and be found much easier for the kind of art that you make. So all of this is covered inside my Art Business Foundations program, and our next cohort starts in September. I'll add the link in the show notes for that. If you are somebody that has already been selling your art, maybe you've got some exhibitions under your belt and you really think that galleries is your next step, then I do have a program. This one is called Gallery Ready, and you can join the waitlist for that. I'll be opening the waitlist for that program soon, and a couple of times later in the year, we will have some live calls there as well. That is a self-paced program. Art Business Foundations is a live program, so we're on live, live online calls. So you're getting my feedback in real time as we go along, and it's there. And we've got a couple of sessions within that program, which is slightly more open forum for you to ask your questions about, any other aspect of your art business or anything else that's come up for you that I can support you with. So that is 2 programs that I have to support you. You can find me on Instagram at @theGitaJoshi if you've got questions about either of them, and you can let me know over there as well what else you would like me to talk about on the podcast.